Today I am gonna be ranking romance animes I've watched so far on this tier list I have made. Yeah. Um so yeah. So be- so before we get into this, I just want to let you guys know that this is my personal rating and so don't take these ratings too seriously. Like, this is just my personal opinions because I have a feeling I'm probably gonna make some of you guys disappointed with some of these rankings. So yeah, but yeah, I am excited though because like I enjoy anime, and like one of my favorite genres of anime of all time is romance. I don't know why, but I just like romance animes. Let's get started. So first, we have Clannad. So, Clannad's kind of an interesting anime because my friend Hitmon recommended me this show. So, I have watched 3 episodes of it. I haven't. I put it on hold because the story hasn't like interested me that much at the moment. So yeah. So let me think. If I had to put this on the tier list, well, I think probably B tier. I think B tier is probably the best tier I could put it in because I haven't watched the entire show yet, so I can't really say I could give it an A. But from what I've seen so far in like the first 3 episodes, it's not bad. Like the story's definitely kind of interesting. So yeah, maybe we'll continue it like at some point. So yeah, more than a married couple, but not lovers. Okay, so I've only seen 1 episode of this, so I don't know where I would put it. I mean, from what I've seen, it's not bad. I'm kind of tempted to just put it in the haven't watched because I feel like since I've only watched like 1 episode, it's like not really because I don't know. I am trying to think where I should put it. I'll put this there because I've only watched one episode of it, so yeah. All right, next anime, Girlfriend. All right. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting show. So I'm not gonna lie, when I first watched episode 1 of the show, like I honestly just wanted to drop the show immediately. I mean, I think I did at some point, like after like watching a little bit of episode 2. Like I just dropped the show for a while. I think just based on what I've seen so far, and based on like me just dropping the show for a while, I think I have to put this in F tier. So yeah, but that's solely because I've only watched like 2 episodes of it, and I just haven't really, and the show just hasn't really interested me. So yeah. Next is Toradora. Alright, so I actually haven't seen Toradora yet, so I'm gonna have to put it here. But I do know this show is like very popular. I know it's like a very popular romance slash school show, so I definitely do kind of want to watch it whenever I can. But yeah, yeah, there's not really much I could say about it other than like all I've heard was like good stuff about it. So yeah, so hopefully I'll get to that at some point. 5 centimeters per second. All right. Oh man, it's been a long time since I've seen this show. Taking a look at what I gave it in my like anime list, I gave it a 7. So I guess it was like an alright. I'm gonna put this in like C tier. All right, next anime, A Couple of Cuckoos. Honestly, I actually kind of like this show. I think think I watched this show after like watching like the quintessential quintuplets. So yeah, but I think this show is solid. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in B tier because I think it should be B tier. I think that'd be solid. Next show, Bloom Into You. Okay, this show. I'm gonna be honest. I gotta be careful with how I rank this show because I have some friends that might hate me for this if I put this in a, let's say, F tier. When I saw this poster for this show, yeah. Well, actually, was it a poster? No. When I first saw the first episode of the show, I'm not gonna lie, I might have called these two Yukino and Yui from Origairu, and that's simply because they have, well, one has black hair, the other has pink hair. And then when you put them in a show like this, I'm gonna assume that's the case. So I've only seen one episode of this show, but it was actually pretty solid though. Like, it definitely seems kind of interesting, so I probably will end up continuing the show when I get the time. So I think I'm gonna put it in B tier, I think. Yeah, I think B tier. Next anime. A Galaxy Next Door. Right. Okay, so this show, honestly, I actually kind of like this show. I think this was like this was definitely like, one of the shows I used to watch at like when I first like started getting into like anime. I actually really like the romance of the show. I will say like the plot of the show wasn't actually too crazy. I thought, when I was watching this show, it was like, pretty solid. It was like nothing too crazy for the most part. I think I'm gonna put this in C tier. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this in E tier. A Silent Voice. All right. It's been a while since I've seen these animes or movies. So yeah. Okay, A Silent Voice. So there's a lot of things I could say about this movie. I believe I watched this movie after watching Your Name. So yeah. I will say, I think like the first few minutes of, at the beginning of this film, like it was definitely hard to like watch like all the like the bullying and stuff. I think the main guy who was doing all the bullying, I really got pissed at him. Like, I don't think I've ever gotten pissed by a character in any animes I've watched. Or maybe I have, but like he infuriated me so much. Like, oh my god, like he frustrated me so much when I was watching the film. But I do like, he grew like throughout the movie. So yeah, honestly, I will say it was a pretty solid film. So I think I will. Let me see. Where am I gonna put this? I think I'm gonna put it in the right. Yeah, I'll put it in B tier because I thought it was a pretty solid movie. All right, next anime, Anohana. Oh god. Okay, guys, give me a second. Okay, this show. Okay, I think this could be really controversial in a second. I know that I know that when I described this show to my friends on like how I felt about this, they did not like me for what I said about it. So yeah. But I'm gonna be on. But since this is my honest rating or my honest ranking, I have to be honest with how I feel about this show. Anohana. Okay, so let's start off with the good things about the show. So, okay, what I liked about this show was it dived into all the characters, kind of like how they were all like important like to like Memma, I think. Yeah, and like how important she was as like part of their like group, and like with her like not being around, it kind of like made them all like drift away from each other. So yeah. So yeah, that was definitely like a good thing about the show. So now the bad thing about the show. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I think you know how I said Memo was the good thing about the show? Yeah. She's also kind of the bad thing about the show. Now, before you guys get mad at me, I just want to explain why. Membo was like really like interested in like I think the main guy, and I'm gonna be honest, I just didn't really see why. Like I didn't really see why she was like why she was in love with the main guy. Like I just never saw any of that. So yeah, and like this whole like story of like her just always showing up at his house all the time. I just didn't, and like yeah, and just hanging out there all the time. It's like I just didn't get it, and maybe that's just me. So yeah, but yeah, I mean I'm sure there probably is more that I guess didn't necessarily think. So yeah, but I will say it's not a bad show though. But I just don't I don't know, like it just didn't really interest me in general. That's the thing. Like unfortunately, like I guess in terms of like a romance show, like it just isn't like it just doesn't really feel like a romance show. So yeah. No, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put this in C tier. Boarding School Juliet. Ooh, okay, this show. I actually quite like this show, surprisingly. So this was basically kind of like an anime take on like the popular Shakespeare play Romeo and Juliet, which we probably all have heard, and probably have read at least in like high school. So yeah, and I actually really like this anime. Like this anime did a really, honestly, I think this anime did a better job taking inspiration from Romeo and Juliet, and then like improving it even better. So yeah, like I really like the relationship with I think Romeo and Juliet, like the main characters. Like it was really nice to see them like kind of slowly develop their relationship, and like it felt real. Like it wasn't like fake or anything, like in most like animes where it's like you'll have like two characters who are somewhat like in a relationship. But yeah, in my personal opinion, I think honestly I'm gonna put this A tier. I think it should be an A tier because I think this anime is very underrated. I would say like it's a very underrated romance show. It does a really good shot. It does a really good job showcasing like the romance. Bottom tier Tomozaki. Okay, honestly it's been a while since I've seen this show. I did just finish watching season 2 recently, so yeah. But I mean I think from what I remember about the show, like I think at the beginning I called this the Smash Bros show, because I mean literally the game the main characters were playing was Smash Bros, but like just an anime. So yeah, but yeah, it was pretty funny. Homozaki was like, I guess learning about life through like I guess treating it like a video game. So yeah, like having like different like missions that he needed to complete and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid show. Would I call this a romance show? I mean, it has Actually, I don't even know if it has romance. Well, I think it does, but like from like the first 2 seasons, I don't think they really had much romance like Jones. So yeah. But I will say, Me, honestly, best girl in the show. Like, I don't know why, but like, she's always just hilarious to see. So yeah. In terms of my ranking, I think I would have to put it in C tier. If we're basing this off just based on like romance alone. Next is Call of the Night. Alright, this show. Oh boy, okay. Honestly, this show is actually kind of also underrated. Like, it's like both hilarious, but it also like serious at the same time. It's like, and also it also does have like kind of an interesting plot as well. I do know it's getting a second season, so I might watch that when it comes out. So yeah, but I think from what I remember, I thought the characters were quite interesting. In terms of my personal opinion, like, I mean, I guess the romance was there, but like, I don't really remember anything too interesting about it, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to put it in C tier. Next is Domestic Girlfriend, probably one of the most controversial anime out there. Like, oh my god. Now I will say, the manga for this show is 10 times better than what the show displayed, because holy crap, this show is a mess, like, and not in a good way. First of all, this needs to go F tier. Like, I'm sorry, but F tier. Next anime, Engage Kiss. Okay, honestly, this show was kind of interesting, to be honest. Like, I think, like, I remember watching this show. Like, I actually thought the romance for the show was alright. I think there was like a complicated like love triangle from what I remember. I think the show was at least interesting enough with like its one season. So yeah. Yeah, I just don't remember this show, unfortunately. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I can't really talk too much about it. I will say the action for the show is actually pretty good. But yeah, but besides that, I don't really remember much. So I'm gonna have to put it in C tier, I think. Gamers. Alright, so now we move on to this show. I might honestly have like some interesting opinions about this show. So this show was, I think, one of like the first like few animes I started watching like last year. I mean, when I first watched the show, I actually thought it was quite interesting. Like, you know, I mean, from the title, Gamers, I honestly just assumed that this was gonna be like an anime just about like games and stuff, which it was. For the most, well, I think at least some part of it was about games. And yeah, but then the other part of it was just a lot of miscommunication stuff, so, and misunderstandings. I will say there was a lot of funny stuff, don't get me wrong, but it was also cringy at some point. In terms of like where I would put this, probably B tier, I think. Next show, Golden Time. Okay, honestly, Golden Time, in my opinion, very, very underrated romance show. Like, I think it's very, very underrated. Golden Time's like really good. Like, I actually think like if you've never seen Golden Time, you should definitely watch it, because I'd say the plot is actually quite interesting. Like, and also the characters themselves. Like I think what really made the show great was the characters. Like, and also just like showcasing like the actual like relationship itself, like showing just like how real relationships can be. I'm gonna put this show in B tier. Yeah. The next show, Guilty Crown. All right. This show. Okay. I don't remember too much about this show, but this was like also like one of the early shows I've seen. All right. I will say this show is like, the show's also pretty good. Like, I think the romance in this show was like also pretty solid for the most part. In terms of like where I would put this, maybe C tier. I might make. Should I make another like? You know what? I'm gonna add another row. I think we need another row. We're gonna call this D tier. We're gonna do this. Colors to this. Okay, we're gonna change this to green, I think. Yeah. Next show. This is Haganai. All right. I'm gonna be honest. This show can go F tier. Oh, and here's my thing. This show, I'm gonna be honest. Too much fan service. And like the way they use fan service is like they just exaggerated too much of it. Like and it just like honestly just made the show just basically uncomfortable for me to watch. Now I will say the plot for the show, it was actually kind of interesting. The plot for the show was actually interesting, but everything else about it just wasn't interesting enough. So yeah, Higi Hero. All right, I think. Oh yeah, this was like also another early show I used to watch. All right. Honestly, this show wasn't bad. Like, to be honest, like, see now. So I guess like, I guess this could have like mixed opinions about the show because technically, see, the romance of this show is an adult, or more so like an older guy, and then he has a like, I guess, a high school student in his house, so, or apartment, I guess. So it's like, it's kind of like, you know, very questionable. But I will say, the romance of the show wasn't actually too bad, and like the show was actually kind of interesting. So yeah, I think I would put the C tier. Yeah, I think I put it C tier. Hori Mia. All right, this show. Hori Mia is also a very like popular show. How do I feel about this show? Okay, well, let's start off with what I like about the show. I think this show did a pretty good job, like showcasing kind of like Hori and Miyamura's like relationship, like kind of because I think Miyamura was like kind of like a I don't want to be rude, but I think he was kind of like an emo kind of dude. So at the beginning, so yeah. Here's the issue of the show that I have. The second half of this show, like, it was just terrible, and here's why. Because for some reason, the show decided to focus on the other characters as well. So basically, in other words, the show was basically it was basically just 9 main characters instead of just focusing on Hori and Miyamura. So basically, like when they were focusing on the other characters, it basically just felt like Hori and like Miyamura were just like now side characters at this point. Like they were no longer the main focus of the show, which personally I didn't really like. I think I would put this C tier because I don't think it's a bad show. So yeah, but I also don't think it's great either, unfortunately. So yeah. Next anime. Okay, I Want to Eat My Pancreas. All right. I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw the title of this movie, I just didn't want to watch it at all. But I will say, I kind of like, I don't know why they chose that title, like I Want to Eat My Pancreas. Like, no idea why, but yeah. here's my personal opinion. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really like this film's like. Well, actually, okay. Well, okay. I liked some parts of this movie, but then I'm gonna be honest. Like, I didn't really like the way the girl died. Like, she had the most dumbest like reason for dying. Like I don't know why they decided like, oh, let's make this girl die by some random dude. Like, what? Like, she got murdered rather than like died like normally, which was just dumb. It basically just meant like, it basically kind of just implied that she was gonna die regardless. I'm gonna have to put it D tier. In Search of the Lost Future. Alright. This show, honestly, it's also kind of underrated. Like, I know not many people know about this show, but it's pretty good. In terms of where I would rank this, in my personal opinion, I think I would probably put this in like, probably D tier in terms of like romance. Next show, Aruduku, The World in Colors. I have some mixed opinions about this show. So let me start off with the good things about the show. What I really liked about the show is the art. Like, this show has like probably some of the best art like I've ever seen. Like, I used to be an art student in high school, so I appreciated just like seeing all of this like art and stuff. Like, I really liked just seeing like them draw like these visually amazing like images, and yeah, like these pictures, they're amazing. So now here comes the bad parts about this show. There's literally, well, okay, I wouldn't say there's like no romance, but like there's like almost like no romance. Basically, I would say like there's only like there was only like a little bit like of romance like even shown, but like as a romance show, it just does a bad job, unfortunately. The main characters didn't even get to end up together because they were from like two different time periods. So yeah, and yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put this in D tier. Next one, Just Because. Ooh, okay, this one's actually kind of interesting, to be honest. Like, I actually did quite like the story for this. And yeah, and honestly, the characters, honestly, they were pretty interesting. Like, I think all of them had like their difficulties, like, which was pretty nice to see. Besides that, it was actually a pretty solid show. So yeah, so here is the hard part. It's like, where do I put it? Because if we're talking about, yeah, well, okay. Because if I'm ranking these just based on like romance alone, it would be D tier. But because like the show itself was actually quite interesting, yeah, I don't want to be biased though. That's the only thing. It's like I want to be fair with how I give these rankings. So I'm gonna have to put this in. Let me think. I think I'm gonna put it in C tier because I don't want to be biased. I want to be like honest with how I feel about these shows in terms of like just like as a romance anime alone. Kids Neighbor. Alright, actually quite like this show. This show is also like a very, very underrated show. I definitely highly recommend this show if you haven't seen it. It's a very good like psychological show. It does have some romance in it. I'd say. Winning for the show is pretty good. Music itself is also pretty good, and also just the characters alone, and even the plot, like. The plot and the characters, like, they were amazing. Like, I don't think I've ever seen, like, characters, like, really, really express, like, genuine emotions. Like, okay, I say that, but then we have Origairu coming up, so, but yeah. But yeah, this was honestly a pretty solid show. As a romance show, I'd say it's alright. So I'm gonna put this in B tier. Next show. Love, Election, and Chocolate. Alright. I don't really remember too much about this show, so but from what I can remember, it was, it was like your typical romance show. Like, you had the childhood friend and like the main guy. I think I would put it D tier. Next up is Masamune's Revenge. Honestly, this is also an underrated romance show. Like, it's actually pretty good. Like, I'd say season 2 for the show does a lot better job of like actually like showcasing the romance than like season 1, because like I think for season 1, like, the guy was just like, your average like jerk. Like, bro like had like the most biggest confidence ever. So yeah. But yeah, I'd say I'd say the show itself is actually pretty solid for the most part. So honestly, I'm actually gonna put this in B tier. Oh wait, not B tier. Yeah, Mayo Cheeky. All right. What can I say about the show? Honestly, not bad. Like, I'd say this show is also not bad. Like, by any means. Like, once again, I don't really remember too much about the show. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen this show, so I think I would probably put this. I think I'd put this. I think I would put this in B tier. Well, My Dress Up Darling. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. Alright. This show was actually pretty good. Like, as a romance show, it was pretty good. I don't really remember anything too memorable about this show for the most part. I do know like some of my friends like it though, so yeah. But I do think, like, in my personal opinion, I think I would put it in C tier, honestly. Yeah. My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999. Alright. Honestly, I actually kind of liked it. Like this show. This is like one of the earliest like romance shows like I started off with. I remember watching this show. Honestly, this show was actually quite interesting in like the way they like handled like the romance. Like, it was quite interesting. Like, the plot itself wasn't even too bad for the most part. So yeah. Let me think. I think I would probably put this also in C tier as well, because as much as I think it was like good, I also don't think it was in like great. It could have been better though, I'd say. Next up, Origairu. Oh my god, let's go. This is geek anime right here. All right. I will just say Hachiman goated character. Also, I'm gonna be honest. I was a Yui supporter all the way till the end, so it definitely kind of hurt when she didn't win. Even though I kind of knew she probably wouldn't have won. So yeah. But even still, like, I still wanted Yui to win. So yeah. But honestly, Origairu is like one of my favorite animes of all time. Like, I just really like the show. When I first started watching the show, like, I thought this was like a really like just like funny like kind of like, because I think this anime came out in like 2013, so like some of like their dialogue was just hilarious. It kind of felt like old YouTube, like in how like people would like say like just funny stuff in general. So yeah, like, yeah, I thought like Hachima was like a really interesting character. So yeah. But I will say, what I really liked about this show was like the way like they kind of showcase like the complexity of like the characters, like relationships, and also themselves as well. So yeah, it was like this. Yeah, this show was like really interesting. So yeah, I really like this show. Like, yeah. Oh yeah, and then obviously the like the most, I think probably one of the most memorable scenes was like the Hachiman's like genuine I can't remember what it was called. I think genuine emotions or genuine feelings scene. But yeah, that scene, that like probably one of the best scenes I've seen in a romance show. Like it was so yeah. In terms of where I would rank this, I mean, I gotta rank it S tier. Like, I'm sorry, but and I might be biased, but Origairu, it has to be S tier for me. Like, it's just a great anime in general. Like, I love the show. Like, it was really good. Next up is Orange. All right. Okay. Well, this show, honestly, this show wasn't too bad. Like, the way they handled like the romance was definitely quite interesting. But I will say it was pretty. I thought it was a pretty good show. So I would put it E tier. Orishura. I think that's how you pronounce it. But I could also be wrong. So yeah. Okay. Honestly, this show kind of reminds me a lot of like Seikano, actually. So yeah. But in terms of like a romance show, like this is actually not a bad show. I thought this silver hair girl, like I thought she was like really annoying at the beginning, but like over time she actually kind of like grew. I actually kind of grew to actually like her character. I think I would put the show probably, I think D tier, unfortunately. The next show, Our Dating Story, The Experienced You and The Inexperienced Me. Alright, I have a lot of things to talk about the show. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I actually did read the manga for the show, and I actually thought the manga for the show was actually really good. Like, so unfortunately, I was like one of those people who were like, oh, but like one of those people who had a lot of high expectations for the show. So when the first episode, like, it was a pretty solid start, but then like the rest of the show, it was just pretty mid. Like, it was just pretty mid, and like it was just also boring. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put this in F tier. Next show, Plastic Memories. Okay, this show. Honestly, the show is actually pretty good. I don't remember too much about the show, but I think at the beginning of the show, like, I thought like the plot was like quite interesting. Whole like the robots becoming like zombies thing was actually quite interesting. Focus on the robot and the main guy's relationship, and I mean, honestly, it was actually really good though. Like, so yeah, like the romance for like the way they handled the romance was beautiful. Like, it was like very good. So yeah. Now, okay, well, if I'm not being biased, then I actually think this show should be B tier, because I think the way they handled the romance is actually really good. So yeah, Real Girl. Okay, this show. But I will say there was like some moments like where I was kind of just bored when they weren't really like focusing on their like relationship. So yeah, but I thought the show was kind of interesting. I don't think I have much to say about it. Well, other than like, I really like the ending though. The ending was really good. Like, they got to be together. So yeah, that was like pretty good. I would probably put this in D tier, I think. Next show, Remake Our Life. All right. I actually like the show. I feel like this is also a really underrated show. Okay, well, in terms of a romance show, technically there wasn't really much romance. However, in terms of like just like if you were just to focus on the plot itself and also the characters, like hands down, like probably I wouldn't say 10 out of 10, but like probably like a good like 9 out of 10. I'd say like this plot for the show was like very interesting, because in the show it's like the main guy kind of goes back 10 years and like basically restarts his life. So yeah, and it's quite interesting. Like I really like the plot for this show. So yeah, I'm actually gonna put this in A tier because I really like the show. It probably would have been like one of my favorite shows, like if like there was like some things that were handled better. Next up is Rent a Girlfriend. Oh boy, we have a lot to talk about this show. I'm gonna be honest. When I first watched this show, I gave the show a 10 out of 10. I know you guys are gonna be like, what? And okay, and here's my okay. Well, I don't even know how I can defend myself for giving it a 10. Let's just say, I didn't know how to give a good rating at the time. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. But I'm gonna be honest. So here's the thing. Like, I actually thought like the comedy for the show was actually quite interesting. Yeah, like I thought there was like some like some good moments. I would say in terms of like what are the bad moments, everything else. I probably don't need to explain it. Why it's like bad. So yeah, I think Rent a Girlfriend, D tier. Next show, Seikano, or yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Honestly, I actually just recently finished this show, so yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually really like this show. So I will say, I did have this show on hold for a really long time because I thought just from like watching episode 1, the show just wasn't gonna be interesting. But then, you know, I decided like to just give the show another chance, and I'm really glad that I did, because this show was actually really interesting. It's definitely kind of it's a really good show if you just want something that's like not like how can I say this, like I guess like a good like a good healthy like relationship, I guess. This is the kind of show that I would recommend. Yeah, I actually would put this. I'm like torn. Where do I put this? Do I put this? I think B tier. I think that makes sense. Science fell in love, so I tried to prove it. All right, so this show. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I only watched one episode of this, so I don't really have too much of an opinion of it. It's like okay, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put this in F tier. Like, it's just not like my type of show. So yeah. Next show is Scum's Wish. Okay, well first I'm putting this in F tier. Like, straight up, there is so much things wrong with this show. Like, oh my god, like this would be a show that I would not recommend to anyone. Like, oh my god, like this is like just a very uncomfortable show, like in general. Like, oh my god, like I do not like. When I saw this show, I was like, oh, this show just sucks, like in every aspect. Like, there's just like the characters are just so unlikable. Like, you have like the teacher, you have her, you have her best friend as well. Like, there's just so many uncomfortable things about the show. Next up is Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. Honestly, I feel like people give too much hate to this show, in my opinion. I really don't think this show is as bad as like people think. Like I've like read the reviews, so I kind of understand why. Because like in terms of like a romance show, like there's nothing really interesting about it. It's like just very generic. It's like there's no no like interesting parts or anything like that, or any memorable parts. But I feel like that's also kind of why I like the show, because I think what's kind of different about the show is like the main couple is already established, so there's like no build up to it. It's more of like just showing this couple kind of progressing through their relationship, just continuing to grow stronger as like time progresses. So yeah. But yeah, honestly, I feel like this is underrated. But if I had to like rank this based on like romance, I actually think this would be C tier. Honestly, like I don't really think it's that bad as people say it is. Sing Yesterday for me. All right. How do I feel about this show? Well, I mean, I haven't watched this show in a long time, so yeah. Honestly, the show isn't too bad. Like, I can't really remember anything interesting about the show, unfortunately. So, yeah. Because of that, I'm probably just gonna put in D tier. We've come to the next controversial anime, SAO, or also known as Sword Art Online. Oh boy. Okay. All I will have to say is incest. No, I'm just joking. No. 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 Okay, but anyways, alright, let's see. Okay, in terms of a romance show, so I guess if we're just like looking at just romance in general, I actually think this is like a pretty solid romance anime. But now here's the thing. I'm saying this because of Kirito's and Asuna's relationship, not the heirloom, okay? No, not the heirloom. I don't know why that's a thing. I really don't care about it. If we're looking at this as a romance show, and we're including like the heirloom and stuff, D tier. Tenpuru, no one can live on loneliness. Okay, so this is basically quintessential quintuplets, but worse. I'm gonna be honest, F tier. There wasn't anything memorable about it. Next up is The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Alright, this S tier. I don't care. This is an S tier romance show. Like, one of the best like romance shows I've ever seen. Like, this came out in 2023, I think. So yeah, but this is like one of the best romance shows I've seen. Like from the start to the end. Like, I was just really interested in this relationship. Like, this was like probably one of the most wholesome like relationship like I've ever seen. Like every episode, I was just always interested. There was like no single part where I was like bored at all. I just really like this like couple. Like, this couple like was really good. So yeah, like when season 2 comes out, like I'm 100% watching it for sure. Next up is the Cafe Terrace and its goddesses, and honestly, this is the quintessential quintuplets, except they're just older. Honestly, I feel like this is I feel like this is also very underrated. You could say like the fan service for this show is definitely like quite a lot, but the actual like characters themselves and also like the plot it's actually kind of interesting for the most part. I'm gonna actually put this in C tier. Next up is The Dreamy Boy is a Realist. Oh boy. I'm putting this F tier. here's my reason why. So, I'm gonna be honest. The first few episodes of this show wasn't even bad. It's just that, well, actually no. After episode 1, like, honestly, honestly, this show could have just ended after episode 1. Like, it really didn't even need like the rest of the episodes. Yeah, and here's why. Like, first of all, this girl, actually probably the most annoying girl I've ever seen in an anime. Like, so for context, this girl basically decided to reject the main guy, and then the main guy was like, oh, okay. But then all of a sudden she's like annoyed that he's like not like talking to her anymore. He's like bothering her. Like, and like I'm like, girl, like, you literally rejected him. Of course he's not gonna go talk to you anymore. Like, what did you expect? Next show is The Garden of Words. It was honestly actually pretty good. Like, I actually kind of like this just one episode thing. Yeah, I thought it was really good. Like, the romance, I mean, I guess it was fine. In my personal opinion, probably C tier. Next up is the quintessential quintuplet, and I don't even need to tell you guys where I'm putting this. S tier. I don't care. That the quintessential quintuplets, in my opinion, is a peak show. Like, one of the best harem animes I've like seen. Like, I don't care. And I will say one thing about it. Miku should have won. That's all I have to say. So yeah, but yeah, this show, honestly, I really like the show. Like, I actually thought, like, when I first watched the show, like, I wasn't gonna like it, but like, as I continue just watching more and more episodes, like, I really just started getting into the show. So yeah, and yeah, it's a really solid show. Like, really solid show. Next up is The Ice Boy and His Cool Female Colleague. And honestly, I actually have a story I could talk about with this show. So surprisingly, this was actually one of the first like few animes that actually got me interested into anime itself. Like, and it's probably surprising, but probably to a lot of you guys, like, because this show, like, it's nothing too crazy. It's like just like a typical like comedy, and then there's like, I guess, kind of like slice of life. So maybe more of that than like an actual romance show. But like, it was still pretty good, and I really liked it. Like, I actually did enjoy it. Like, I thought it was like funny, like, just watching this show. So I'm actually gonna put this. I'm gonna put this in B tier though, because it's not necessarily my favorite, but I thought it was still a solid show. The Pet Girl of Sakura So. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I have a lot to say about this show, and I know my friend Hitmon is probably gonna hate me for this if he watches this video, but and he probably might. So yeah, I'm sorry, Hitmon, but I'm gonna be honest. My issue with the show was the main female character, this girl. In my opinion, she was just annoying to like. She was just really annoying in the show. I felt like some of the things that she did, like, it just was weird. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. Trapped in a dating sim. Alright. Honestly, how can I say this? Okay, so I have mixed opinions about this show. On the one hand, originally I thought the main guy was just really annoying, like, for a while, but honestly, he actually kind of grew into me. Like, I actually thought he kind of felt like your typical like gamer, just like talking like trash like about the characters because like they were in a video game, so, and they probably wouldn't understand his like humor or anything like that. So yeah, but in terms of the romance of the show, I actually really liked it. Like, I thought it was actually really good. Like, there was like some like really good serious moments in this show. So yeah, I'm actually gonna put it in B tier. I think it's actually really good. Next show is Sui ga Kiri. Honestly, this show also, I think this show is like pretty solid. There's like some like good parts to it. There's also, yeah, like I'd say there's some good parts to the show. Like also like the romance of the show is also pretty good as well. Like I really liked it. So yeah, like, you know, it kind of depicted, you know, your typical high school romance. You know, so yeah, I thought it was pretty good. So I think I would put it D tier though. It wasn't like anything crazy for the most part. Next up is Weathering with You. Okay. This movie has a lot of issues. Okay, well, I'll start it off with like the good parts. The visuals for this movie were fantastic. Like the scenery, like the background, like everything, like it was amazing. Like I really like the like Shinkai films are always amazing to watch. Like I like love like watching his films and all of his like work. So yeah. And I mean the characters weren't bad either, like for the most part. So now here comes the bad part of the show. Okay. To start off with, the second half of the show is just bad in general. Like I'm sorry, but it was just bad. Like for some reason, I don't know why, but like this, they decided to make the second half of the show basically like a GTA kind of. It was basically GTA, literally. Like they were literally playing GTA for some reason. Like I don't understand why. Like it was really unnecessary to do that, and it kind of put a bad feel. It kind of gave me a negative feeling about this movie, because I actually think this movie had a lot of potential, but it just like the second half, it was just very underwhelming. In my personal opinion, I think it would probably be, I think, C tier. Next up is World End. Okay, honestly, World End, it wasn't actually bad. Like I actually really like the show. I feel like this is also another like really good show that not a lot of people probably know about, but I actually think the romance for this show was actually really good, and I actually did tear up in the ending. So yeah, like the music for the show was also really good, as well as the opening. The opening was also really good. Like, oh my god, the opening for the show actually goes hard. So yeah, in terms of where I would put this on the tier list, probably C tier. Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches. Alright, okay, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw the premise of this show, I was like, it was kind of, I was kind of like unsure if I should watch this show or not. But I'm gonna be honest, when I watched the show, it wasn't actually bad. Like, sure, there was like definitely some interesting moments, but I mean, for the most part, it was actually quite interesting. So yeah, and honestly, the way they handled the romance for the show was actually honestly pretty good. Like, I liked it. I would actually put this in C tier. Yeah, I'll put in C tier. Next up is Your Lie in April. Alright, I actually have a lot of things I could say about the show. For starters, opening is a banger. Like, probably one of my favorite openings from an anime. Like, it's like, the opening's just like, oh my god, it's just perfect. Alright, and like, honestly, I also really like the romance with Kaori and Kosei. Like, it was beautiful to watch. Like, oh my god, like I love their relationship. And so yeah, and it, you know, it was also really, it was sad to see Kaori die or pass away at the end, because like her surgery failed. Yeah. So now, here's the only thing about this show. The issue with the show was that it had too many episodes that honestly were unnecessary. Like I kind of think this show could have just like been handled with just 13 episodes, and like it would have been fine, or even 12. Like, because I'm gonna be honest, like the extra, because I feel like they use like the extra episodes to extend the performances, which honestly were really unnecessary, and it just made like watching those episodes really boring. And unfortunately, like it just also made the show really boring for me to watch at some point. So yeah, but I will say it's still a solid show, so I'll give it a B. Your Name. Okay, well, I mean, I don't think there's much to say about this, but this is going S tier. Your Name is probably one of the best anime movies I've seen, like, by far. Like, whenever whenever my non-anime friends are looking for like something to watch, I always recommend them Your Name. Like, Your Name is probably like, Your Name's just a really good movie to like show to anyone like who has probably never seen anime. It's like the romance in the movie was fantastic, the visuals was awesome, the plot was awesome, like the whole swapping bodies was also awesome. Like, basically it was just like a perfect movie. And yeah, I mean, I've also rewatched it like 2 times already, so yeah, such a great movie. So yeah, and I think that's it. This is my romance anime tier list. I actually had a lot of fun doing this, so yeah. Yeah, I mean, if this video does well, then maybe I'll rank my entire tier list. Actually, if this video does well, then maybe I'll rank the rest of my like watch list, like all of like the animes I've watched. So yeah, and I think that would be really funny to see where I would rank them. So yeah, but overall I had a lot of fun. So yeah, so thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys all later. See you guys.